Oh, hi there, and welcome to a new video here on my channel about dating guys with Asperger syndrome. So, I figured I'd make a video on the red pill movement. In case you haven't heard about it, it's basically, I don't want to call it a philosophy because it has a lot of real life strategies for being successful as a man, and then especially being successful with women in dating, etc. And of course the name comes from that scene in the Matrix where Neo gets offered a blue pill, and if he takes that he'll continue living his life, or he takes a red pill which will open his eyes to the truth. And of course he takes it and then realizes that what he thought his life was just this simulation, and that people are actually like human batteries plugged into a big machine, etc. And yeah, that movie of course spoke to a lot of people, because I think very often, or sometimes we feel like, what's really the truth? Because a lot of what we know about the world is just what society tells us, and if we had been born a few decades earlier or later, we would be very different people. So this societal conditioning that people sometimes realize, and then of course everybody has a feeling every now and then that we are just a big cog in a machine and don't have much agency, etc. So a brilliant name for this movement, which is sort of it encourages men to take charge, to take charge of their life, and to see the truth. And it presents itself as, okay, society feeds you all these things about dating, about how women are, and it's all not true here. Let us give you the real truth. It's very successful. A lot of men obviously very into it these days, and I wanted to make a video about it because a lot of people with Asperger seem to be drawn to it, or men with Asperger's, because one thing that it does is it has like the sort of science or pseudoscience basis for a lot of the tenets there. And then it has a whole dictionary or terminology where it has names for everything, and a lot of the patterns in human communication or in dating, there are words for everything. And then you go on these forums and men discuss how an interaction with a woman happened, and they say, okay, I played dread game and she did the anti-slut defense or whatever. So which is kind of, in this context, in the context of red pill, ASD doesn't mean autism spectrum disorder, but anti-slut defense, which is when women want to act like a slut, but they don't want to admit they're sluts, so they do the anti-slut defense, where they say something defensive so they don't look like sluts. So this red pill has names for everything, and guys get very attached to it and see it as very helpful. And like the best philosophies, it has some truth to it, and then some stuff mixed in that's just pretty bad. It's almost with everything. I mean, you can watch Joel Osteen, that pastor of that big Texas megachurch. He says a lot of very inspiring things, and people swear by him, and then there's that stuff mixed in with the prosperity gospeling. So just as an example of, just because there's some truth to it and you feel inspired by it, if you're watching this and you're already into the red pill, doesn't mean you should turn off your brain and just absorb everything that comes with it, because there could be some really bad stuff that works against you, which is, I think, the case here. And first of all, the good stuff, definitely, if it's a person with Asperger's, you might be already a little bit behind the social curve and not have had much that interest in human interaction for many years in your life. So if you feel drawn to red pill, I would say go for it. And yeah, definitely this video will not be where I tell you, oh, this is all misogynistic, toxic stuff, you should stay a million miles away from it. No, I think any kind of societal movement like that, and any new perspective on how men and women interact, it's really fascinating, and you can look at it and you can read about it, and then you can see what is true, and then the stuff that's wrong, why is it that way. Now, before I continue, I think I'm going to run a few clips of some of the driving forces behind the movement, which started like years ago with a blog called Royce in DC, which I read, and the guy was clearly highly intelligent, had this very sharp, sarcastic humor, very jaded worldview, but he was very readable, and sort of with a morbid fascination. I read his blog. Now I think he got doxxed at some point and dropped off the radar, and he sold his blog that came after that, and it's run by different people now. Then there was Rouge V, who had an appearance on Dr. Oz. Look it up, it's kind of funny, including the aftermath and everything. But he kind of took it to the red pill and claims to have started red pill and this whole alpha, beta thought of categorizing men. And now you have he kind of split off from the movement right now, and now you have Rollo Tomassi, which is a pseudonym, some guy who also participated in those blogs and now wrote a book, The Rational Male, and he is very well respected in the red pill community. So I'm going to run a couple clips of Rouge V, just because I'll be saying some positive stuff about red pill, but let's not, just watch the stuff, and I see you on the other side.
The worst thing any man can do, anywhere, is ask advice from a woman. She knows what? She knows how to look pretty. Hopefully she knows how to push papers in an office and menial tasks, and how to look good, how to fuck. But in terms of helping men get what they want in life, they cannot give this advice. They just don't have it, and it's not expected of them.
I can only say, how can you attack your own father? How can you attack someone? The language that you speak every day, the improved sex life that you now have, that has my seed written in it.
Weight as well. The good thing is there are no gays here. I didn't see any gays in the Midwest, so that's good.
So really important to keep in mind, those are some forces, in some of the major forces in the red pill movement. And now, if you go to the forums, some people will just distance themselves from it. And as much as red pillers like to lump all women together, and that's one big aspect of the movement, that it says, okay, women are conditioned by evolutionary biology to think this way, or to pick mates that way, and they are not loyal like men. They looking always for the mate with the highest value, and then if a better man comes along with a higher value, they will monkey branch into a new relationship due to their hypergamy. I mean, there's a lot of words there, and concepts, and it lumps all women together. I think that's any rational person who starts reading this will probably go, my buddy with the kind of relationship I wish I had, he didn't plate spin his girl, he didn't, he even told her he cared about her after a few weeks, and he just wanted to date just her exclusively, and he did all the things wrong that you shouldn't do according to Redpill, which says, don't do the nice guy things. And then, he acted like a nice guy and he landed her. And Redpill, if you ask people like that, they say, oh, she's a unicorn. Again, they have names for everything, and the unicorn, of course, implies doesn't exist or exists hardly ever. So it gives men the idea that they shouldn't be looking for a good woman, because that's, your sister's a unicorn, your buddy's girlfriend is a unicorn. But most women just, they work this way here. So stick to the strategies recommended by Redpill to have success with women. So again, you can see where I'm coming from, that this is probably more harmful to your dating life, and especially harmful if you are looking for and as a person with Asperger's, chances are you don't want to bed a different hot babe, or like bamboozle like insecure college students, a different one each weekend. But that maybe you are looking for a relationship with a woman who can match you on an intellectual level, and that you can work with together through your communication challenges. Most people with Asperger's realize they can't even do these a lot of these strategies. I think it's really important there to separate the good stuff, and there's some good stuff from the bad stuff. So I think I'm going to run another video clip, and this one will be of that third R. People talk about the 3 R's of the Red Pill movement, which is Roy Sindisi, Rouge V, that you saw, and now Rollo Tomassi. So who's an author who wrote a book, The Rational Male. Let's watch him, and he's in an interview here with another Red Pill, mostly vlogger called Entrepreneurs in Cars. I think about if this is like the type of guy you want to live up to be, somebody here with a wedding ring who talks about how he would plate spin.
Living today, but like, would it be spin plates? Would you ever take LTR on, or would it be just kind of do your own thing?
If I were, I'm going to talk about myself. If I were to be in that situation, I would definitely go back to spinning plates. That'd be the first thing I would do. It's kind of unfair for me because I'm Rollo Tomassi. I've written 3 books about this stuff, so I think it's safe to say I'm pretty Red Pill aware. I know what to expect from women, and I know what to expect from them at different ages of their lives. Would I date, 18 to, would I date girls in my daughter's age? Probably not. I would certainly look into the later 20s aspect, because really, like just what we were talking about a little while ago is, when we talked about the epiphany phase and women who are in that state of mind where they think that they're going to settle down, if I really want to go black pill or black knight on this, it would be a very easy thing for me to go and manipulate women of that particular demographic, because I know what they're looking for, and I know how I could present myself in such a way that that I could make the best of that and spin a lot of plates in the late 20s to early 30s demographic, if that's what I was prone to do. I think that would probably be where I would hit it. And I would hit it because I think, first of all, that's the time of a woman's life where she's at her most uncertain and she's at her most necessitous. And if you find a girl who's good looking and hot around that time,
so I don't think you can hope for a very healthy relationship with a good woman if you subscribe to such very misogynistic, negative attitude towards women in general. And I think we decide who we want to be basically every day of our lives. Nobody just woke up as a douchebag for no reason. It's people that decided they had to act a certain way to get what they want, and sometimes then people choose really bad stuff where they then end up in a place where I think it hurts them as much as the people that they deal with. So I leave it up to you to make up your mind. Is this the kind of guy you would really want to aspire to be? If you were a woman with a good head on your shoulders, would this be the type of guy that you would want to date? Would you want to date somebody who, spins plates to have a feeling of abundance, meaning that they never want to settle on one person? Or, it's kind of, there's a lot of projection there where they say women can never be loyal, and it might just, if you are familiar with the psychological concept of projection, you will find a whole treasure trove there. But even though they lump all women together, and of course women have very, very different attitudes. The same men, even within the Red Pill movement, have very different attitudes. And if you go to a Red Pill forum, you might see some stuff that's really inspiring and great stuff, and then mixed in with a lot of that kind of toxic stuff that you've seen earlier from Wuxi or whatever. So, and the good stuff, if Red Pill is what gets a man off the couch and to exercise some and to eat healthy and to skip the fast food and take care of himself and just have a better feeling about being a man, because it's probably hard to talk about it without stepping deep into a soapbox, but the Red Pill movement in this masculinity, etc., that is so popular because the pendulum has probably swung too far, where masculine is almost like a bad word or doesn't have great context. A lot of the traits of men fueled by testosterone, they are really not so sought after now in our service economy, where it's all about teamwork and empathy and sometimes groupthink. And so there's also a thing called men going their own way. I think that's all a reaction to that pendulum has swung too far. And then if you turn on Netflix, every single show is that strong female lead who sleeps around, and then there's that the bumbling, awkward male friend who can't get his life together. So it's almost in media and on TV and everywhere, they're not good role models. I better stop here, because that really does get me into the soapbox, and I don't want to stereotype too much, but that's in addition why I wanted to make this video, because I think that's part of what attracts people with Asperger's to Red Pill, because it is so very male trait oriented and very analytical and very systematic. And of course there's a theory called the extreme male brain, that one of the foremost researchers presented about autism, which is that autism is exaggerated focus on analysis and systems versus more of these social, emotional traits. And what can be more extreme male than Red Pill? So I can see how some people with Asperger's might find a home there in some ways, and if that helps them build up self-esteem. And a lot of the things are absolutely true. I mean, women love men with self-esteem, and I get into this in other videos. If a man comes across like he's not dating much, like an Aspie might be, and if he plays too much the quickly attached good guy who focuses just on one single woman, a lot of women get scared of that because there's a real risk in a man getting really obsessed, and that can cause scary situations. So if a man hangs back a bit and says no big deal, and kind of approaches different women just in a casual way, picks up conversations without it being a big deal to him. I mean, that is great practice, and that the more you do it, I can see how that leads to more success. But and a lot of men do report that they subscribe to the red pill, and then their whole life improves and dating life improves. And I do think that actually most of that is probably just if they start working out, if they eat healthy, if they, just present themselves a bit more laid back and casually around women, and they might feel like the biggest difference was that they open their eyes to how women are just about sexual market value and hypergamy or whatever, but really all of that stuff really didn't have all that much to do with that their life changed. So, but you can make up your own mind about that. And just want to point out, I did, when I went to the forums, I did find a lot of good stuff. Even there was somebody posted, for example, 7 principles of my life, how he is working on himself through meditation, fitness, knowledge, and he lists some stuff, family, relationships, his need to develop healthy and positive relationships with both men and women, work and nutrition, and that's all positive stuff, and can't argue with that. So anyway, if you can pick up the good stuff and then keep that healthy skepticism about all the bad stuff where it lumps all women together as dumb hamster brains that stick to their evolutionary script and will not be loyal to any nice guy or whatever, then if you can leave out all that misogynistic bad stuff, then you could actually get a lot of value from this. And I don't think my videos get anybody off the couch or maybe even to do major changes, but I do see how if somebody feels very drawn to red pill and reads a lot about it, and if that builds up male self-confidence and gets them to the gym and gets them to eat healthy and change their life around, then that's definitely a good thing. Just I hope that men don't all turn into Rouge V's or Rollo Tomassis or entrepreneurs in cars or whatever. Because world needs more men with deeper kind of thinking, which people with Asperger's tend to have. So, and with this, I'm going to wrap it up here. Now, usually I don't ask for comments, but in this case, if you watch this and you are into red pill stuff and you're waiting for me to comment on this or that concept or strategy related to it, and now you're disappointed that I didn't talk about it, just leave a comment and I'll record separate videos about it. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching this, and I look forward to talking with you again really soon. Bye.